Well, I'm Janet McKeithan, and I'm the minister of the church in Ocean Park, and I welcome you to the church in Ocean Park. You might be wondering if you are welcome here. You are, and I hope you will feel like you are a part of church in Ocean Park, whether this is your first time or your 15th time or you've been around a while. You're welcome if you see value in organized religion or if you want to stay as far away from it as possible. No matter where you were born, where you've been, or where you are this morning, you're welcome. You're welcome if you're gay, straight, transgender, non-binary, queer, or indescribable. You're welcome if you're able-bodied or if you have a disability. You're welcome at the church in Ocean Park. The church in Ocean Park strives to be somewhat horizontal organization, so the buck does stop with me. But as a horizontal organization, basically, we have a variety of volunteer leaders and we have times of sharing. That's one of the absolute beauties and unique qualities of the church in Ocean Park and part of what gives it life. However, since there are different belief systems and different life experiences, different people sharing, there may be times that someone says something you disagree with. As you hear them, remember that even though their perspective is important, yours is too. So if you disagree with someone, remember that the only body that speaks for the church in Ocean Park is the administrative board, which holds open meetings. Since our time is limited on Sunday mornings, if a topic comes up you'd like to discuss more, let us know by writing that in the chat and put your email there and the topic title. We'll do our best to follow up and offer spaces to open up and discuss that topic. I invite us now to begin our time together with a land acknowledgement. We, the people of the church in Ocean Park, recognize that most of us this morning sit on stolen land. To all our relations, we in the Santa Monica area, we the settlers of this land, honor the Keech, the Tonga, and the Chumash peoples. Maybe we be good guests upon your land. We acknowledge the harms of genocide, enslavement, forced assimilation, gender violence, destruction of sacred sites, and burial of historic truth about Indigenous suffering at the hands of US colonial settlerism. We apologize for the harm by pledging ourselves to be part of a culture of repair. Let us join our hearts to the protection of sacred sites and villages, as well as the Indigenous people who live among us. This morning is Easter, for those of you who are Orthodox and others who adhere to the Julian calendar. So happy Easter to you. And yesterday was Beltane, so this morning we are celebrating Beltane. And we're very lucky. Dona Dirlam will lead us in the openings and opening up this and the space and closing the circle around us. Let's welcome back our own Dona Dirlam.
I was moved to tears already. Thank you so much. It's so good to be with you. It's a continuation of how we began Beltane last weekend out at Joshua Tree. We spent a lot of time, both morning and night, around fire. So thank you for being here and joining us. On behalf of Maureen, Dean, and we are delighted to spend this morning and share with you today. In recent times, May Day has meant to me, perhaps before coming to the church in Ocean Park, International Workers' Day and the history of workers around the world. On May 1st, in 1886, more than 300,000 workers in 13,000 businesses across the United States walked off their jobs. They walked off their jobs because they wanted an 8-hour working day. Before that, it was 10 or 12 or even more. Through our women's and men's spirituality group, we have been honoring the circle of life and the circle of events, spiritual events in this community for 30 years. So today we're looking at Beltane, which is known by many names. Its Celtic name is difficult for me to pronounce, so I'm going to use the French or German one, Beltane. It comes halfway between spring equinox and summer solstice. It's celebrated in countries throughout the world, and we want to share these powerful times with you today. It's when the hawthorn tree blossoms in the spring and signals the beginning of summer. I'm going to call in the directions now, so if you brought a candle and would like to light your candle, you could do that now. And I'll start by calling in the east. the east, spirit of the east, powers of air. You who rule wind, breath, communication, and contain beginnings, new ideas. Bless us with new understandings. Come, join our circle and dance with us. West, spirit of the west, powers of water. You who rule endings, flow, depth, emotional energy, and contain the place where all things come together. Bless us with feeling our connectedness with all beings. Come and join our circle and dance with us. Does somebody want to start admitting people? I will do, Patty. South, spirit of the south, powers of fire, you who rule energy, warmth, compassion. Bless us with compassionate hearts. Come, join us and dance with us. The circle is closed. Come join us as we circle around our virtual bonfires. So I'll talk a little bit more about Beltane, and then I want to turn you over to Jean Gasca, who's going to lead us on a guided imagery. Beltane marks the beginning of the pastoral summer season, where the cattle were driven out to the summer pastures. Rituals were performed to protect the cattle. Special bonfires were kindled, and their flames, smokes, and ashes were deemed to provide protective powers. In this time, as we go into some quiet time, let us remember what this time is. We're really aware of the cycle of birth, death, growth, death, and rebirth that we see everywhere in nature as little animals are being born and seeds are being planted and grown. But at the same time, as we're coming through the time of COVID, we're especially aware of the people who have died in the US and around the world. The hope for our future brings great joy and a sense of relief, but at the same time, we mourn the people that have been lost and the people touched by the lost ones. We want to remember those too who've suffered through the violence of police and other violence in our communities. So as we turn to our thoughts to how we will honor these losses with what we're planting and what we want to grow this summer. So now I'll turn it over to Jean.
Good morning, everybody. Please get comfortable. Put your feet on the ground if you can. Touching Mother Earth to get energy from her through the soles of your feet. Take a deep breath and let it out slowly. One more time. Take a deep breath. Let it out ever so slowly. Maybe even a sigh. Now I'd like to visualize the following scenario with you. You're at a community celebration within a circle of people around two bonfires that have been lit to honor Beltane. The bonfires are in a meadow surrounded by woods. Inhale the smell of grass. Inhale the smell of the smoke from the fire. The bonfires are quite broad and high, with splendidly colored flames leaping into the dark sky, licking at the wood that has yet to be consumed, with red embers glowing around the base. Hear the crackling sounds of the fires. Look around the circle in your mind. The faces of all the people in the circle are lit up by the flickering flames, and they're flushed from the heat. All the participants surrounding the bonfire want the best for everyone in the coming season. You can see that in their expectant and loving faces. They are a community. Feel the heat on your own face. Hold your hands up to the fire closest to you. Either raise your physical hands or imagine it. Feel the warmth spreading through your palms. You may actually feel tingling or some other sensation in your hands right now. Feel the warmth moving up your arms, through your wrists, your elbows, and up to your shoulders. Now feel the warmth of the whole front of your body as you face the fire nearest you. Feel it expand across your chest and into your heart space. Feel it reach your throat and the back of your neck. Feel it spread across your torso and down your legs. Feel the solid ground underneath your feet. Now it is your turn to walk between the fires. Some people want the magic of the flames to protect their livestock or their crops. Some want prosperity in their financial lives or protection from illness. What is it that you want from the fires? What do you want protected or encouraged to grow? Your physical body, your emotions, your mind, your soul, your pets, your possessions, a project, your work. Decide on something important to you, or maybe all of it is, and then step inside the circle and slowly walk between the walls of flame. Stop right in the center and feel the warmth on both sides of you. The heat drives into the center of you, into your very cells. You pause here to collect as much heat as possible and to record a memory of this experience as you alone are in the center of the circle between the fires. Now you will carry this warmth with you as you step away from the flames and back into the circle. Explore how your body feels now. What sensations do you feel in your hands, your face, the rest of your body? How does your heart space feel? Your mind, your emotions? Take your prayer or your request for protection or growth, wrap it up in the warmth that you feel, and tuck it in somewhere safe in your body. And now look back in your mind at the lit up faces of those in the circle. We are your community. And we lift you up as we all go forward. The bonfires have burned down now. There is mostly smoke, ash, and growing red embers. The bonfires have burned, and we have felt their warmth. As we leave, bend down and pick up some ash. Carry it in your hand, smear it on your body, or keep it until you get home to sprinkle it on your garden. Take with you the power of the communities caring for you. Now we will take 3 deep breaths before we come back, before we leave the meadow. 1, 2, and 3. Blessed be.
Thank you so much, Jean and Louise. Perfect. I was amazed in thinking about May Day and Beltane, how much had been present in my life as a child, because I grew up in a small town in Southwest Minnesota that was German, Scandinavian, Finnish. And we did May Day baskets and took them around, those cone-shaped little May Day baskets with flowers and things, and took them around to our grandparents and put them on neighbors' doors. And we had the maypole. And I was startled to see what a powerful symbol that has been for thousands of years. And so we'll be interested in if in the sharing today that some of you might remember things from your growing up that were part of this ancient culture and ancient practices. There's also the green man, that amazing figure, a face covered with plants, and that you often see in imagery and art, but also on ancient old cathedrals, even though it was forbidden to actually put that, they were there. the maypole with the dancers and ribbons going around in a tradition of dancing and making the ribbons turn. And I have my little maypole ribbons here. So thank you for sharing this. I'd now like to turn it over to Maureen, who's going to bring us more of the May traditions, divine, fire, power, transformation. Maureen Dean.
Thank you. It's so wonderful to be with you all this morning and sharing the fire, the energy that comes with the newness, the new beginnings of the season. And so I'm just going to briefly, we're going to go through a little journey of how the connection between the divine, fire, and power and transformation. So we're going to look at some of the traditions. So we'll do that by slide, right? And so we see in the Jewish tradition, the fire was associated with the divine presence, with God's presence, with what it means to be holy and transformation. And so we see there in the story of the burning bush, Moses with the burning bush, and the fire signifying God. Then we also move on for all those who have that beautiful thing we went through with Easter, and the pillar of fire that was leading the people of Israel out and in towards liberation. And so the pillar of fire is we see the symbol there of moving from one state to deliverance and liberation through the presence of God. Then later on, as Jesus spoke about, the harvest is plenty and the laborers are few, and that with his dying will come the Holy Spirit, which we celebrate. And the Holy Spirit came down on all the people, according to Acts, with tongues of fire. And it is something that we celebrate now at this time. And we mentioned, as we had this introduced into Christianity, when Christianity becomes the main religion, of Rome, and among the Greeks, they had Sophia, who is the goddess of wisdom, gets married with the Holy Spirit. And so in the Eastern tradition, the Eastern Orthodox tradition, and I see true dimension, we see that Sophia, the Holy Spirit, becomes the feminine divine and is that knowledge for the infinite power and wisdom. And so we see that's the Sophia there, the icon right there, depicting the divine feminine as fire and energy and creativity and wisdom. And then in the Protestant church, like John Wesley, where we go down now, our United Methodist Church, we see the fire in the symbols. So when we go back to church in Ocean Park, we will see the fire with the church. And that was important because we have a time in May, John Wesley talked about how he felt his heart strangely warmed, and that fire was ignited in his heart for his mission that started the Methodist Church. And we have the Elders Gate celebration for that. And so we have the symbol of the fire in the church's logo. We're thinking there was some debate about changing the logo, because sadly, we also see, and this is a little trigger warning, but we also see where the fire, the symbol of the fire and the energy and creativity has been perverted, with the Ku Klux Klan, as we see now. The next slide. And has been perverted, and the whole idea and the power that has been used in that way. So, within the context of the Western world and how that is used in the Caribbean and the Americas, what we have come into face that is the Afro traditions. And in the Afro African diaspora traditions, such as Santeria, we have a god, Shango, right? And Shango spits fire, is a god of fertility, of thunder, of war, of passion, and creativity, and usually is acknowledged in the fields. So in fact, when the missionaries encountered the Orisha, the Shango Orisha in the African American diasporas, the American diaspora, they actually thought, linked it with what was satanic and evil. But the god Shango is a very important. And so there we have our depiction of Shango, the god of war, thunder, passion, and power, and liberation. And is celebrated in our settings here. And one of the major things, how this fire plays itself out, is in the acts of resistance throughout the Americas. And so we see, like, we have the Camberley, the next thing, the Camberley riots. So that when in harvest time, when there is the burning of the cane, we have this known for time of liberation and a lot of resistance war. So that every year when you watch Carnival, Carnival begins with an enactment of the burning of the canes, of the Camberley riots, signifying African and African diaspora resistance to white supremacy. Here in California, we know that among the native people, of the First Nations people, fire is medicine. And last year we realized because of the association of fire with resistance, First Nation peoples were banned from criminalized for setting fires. And because they were not allowed to burn their fire, their healing fire, now the entire California is burning, and we're now going back to the first peoples to ask them how to manage the fire. So this is how fire and transformation is thought of. And then we have James Baldwin brings it all together nicely as we are dealing with the resistance continue and the movement for liberation. There's a movement outside my window, forgive me. Yes, and the movement for liberation, and his famous word, fire next time. And in those essays, Baldwin talks about the necessity of us people, white, black, all hues of color, coming together and resisting and transforming whatever hate there is in the country, and to survive. And he also spoke of his experience, his mystical experience, title of his essay, down in the dungeon where his chains fell off, alluding to Aldersgate, John Wesley's conversion. My chains fell off. And he talked about down in the dungeon where his chains fell off. So the cause is for us to, at this time, as we celebrate Valentine and we celebrate the symbolism of fire, that we continue. I'm glad to be a part of this community. This community, I would say, of firebrands, that is persons who are passionate about change and taking radical action, that in this season, we will allow our fires to continue to glow with a little rest. You know, we're having the volcanic eruptions in the Caribbean, and there we see the lava fire. And when that fire cools, it's one of the most fertile lands you can think of. It's amazing when you go, you see what it really means when it says that the phoenix arise from the ashes, that God will give us, divine will give us beautiful ashes, because it's extraordinarily beautiful what grows on the landscape. And so today, thank you for sharing in me, for allowing me to be a part of this beautiful community as we continue to look at the fire, the divine, the power, and the transformation that we're working in this nation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's fascinating and wonderful. All right, I've got a song for you here. Thanks. Thank you, Maureen, to introducing me to this group, the Grace Thrillers. This is called the Holy Ghost Power. Now it's time for community sharing. And let's see if I see any hands up. I don't see any hands up yet. Oh, yes, I do. Christopher Chappell, unmute and speak to us.
Okay, I wanted to thank Maureen for that very inspired and beautifully illustrated evocation of fire, and the music just so perfect. And I'm remembering Pentecost, when our theater group back in Rochester, New York would perform and dance on Pentecost. And I'm also reminded of the centrality of fire within the Zoroastrian and the Hindu traditions, where the fire is kindled every morning, where the fire is linked into the rising of the sun, the performance of the yoga posture, the yoga sequence called Surya Namaskar, and also stirred up within the body through a yoga practice called tapas. And this is a way of purification through either fasting or silence, in which a creative heat is felt within the body that then literally cries out for expression. And this presence of fire celebrated in Diwali through all of the traditions of India every October, where the illumination that is within is expressed without. And this holiday makes real the recognition of the heat and the fire and the passion that sustains us. So thank you, Maureen. It lifts us up in so many ways, this thing of fire.
Thank you very much. Jean Gasca.
Well, first I wanted to say to Dona, I wanted to thank her for reminding me about maypoles, because in my life, I never experienced anything with maypoles until I taught at a little school, which was Waldorf inspired. And the children always did a maypole dance. And so they learned the choreography and so on. But I remember feeling like I wanted to know the reason why they were doing it. You know, it just seemed like a dance. And now I have more of an understanding of it. So I want to thank Dona and Maureen for helping us to understand the symbolism. Beautiful ribbons. And I wanted to go back to the fire that Maureen talked about. I was thinking of all the different sayings in our language that refer to fire as connected with passion, creativity, or motivation. He's on fire, right? We say he's on fire, or I have a fire in my gut. I'm ready to do something. She made a fiery case for her plea. Putting someone's feet to the fire. I loved thinking of that, because when you want to motivate somebody, you put their feet to the fire so that they will do something. And then another saying that I thought of was lighting the way, which kind of evokes this picture of people walking with candles. And so the fire lights the way for us. And then in a kind of a different way, I was thinking about firewalkers, the tradition of actually walking across hot coals, that people go into an alternate spiritual state in order to walk across hot coals and not get burned. And I'm not quite sure how that connects, but for some reason it came up and it's a powerful image for me. So I loved this whole presentation. Thank you so much. And the whole the whole topic of fire I've never really explored for myself. So I enjoyed this much. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone who had, Jean, Louise, Maureen, and Dona, for this. It's just so rich. And I spent yesterday was May Day, and I was I'm here in the Bay Area. Yeah, I was at the Embarcadero in the May Day march, and I was thinking about air, right? I was thinking about oxygen that had been commodified, and the way that people in India are dying because of the commodification of oxygen, that they can't, that it's being used for manufacture instead of for healing. And people in India are dying because they can't breathe. And then I was thinking about Mario Gonzalez, who was killed in a park in Alameda County, where I am, last week, held to the ground until he lost consciousness and died. Jesus. And then and George Floyd and Eric Garner. So I've been thinking about air and breath a lot. But then this morning talking about fire brought a whole new consciousness to me about the fire this time. And I think it's important to realize that fire is destructive and clears the way for something new. And I can't remember now, but I know there are plants in the forest in California that do not germinate until after a fire has burned away the shell that keeps them from growing. And I think, as a communist, I think that people react in fear to the idea of revolution. But I really know that some things have got to be destroyed for new life to grow, and that's the fire. That's the fire.
Next up, Trudy Goodwin.
Gosh, in addition to thanking the folks that presented this morning, I want to thank Jean for our lovely guided message in the beginning, but also for her incredible bringing into this circle the various ways that fire is referred to in the English language. And then Linda, my sister, who knows that it's got to be a fire this time. Thank you so much for bringing that in. I just want to thank Maureen, because I was truly hoping that when we talked this morning, we were going to include the various traditions of this particular time of year, and especially the African traditions that are often left out of our services. Or when I say ours, I mean collectively around the world. I know that I cannot start a spiritual process or practice before I light a candle. I have to bring fire into my life in order to talk with my ancestors, to pray and chant for someone. It has to be at the beckoning of the spirits that happen through fire. So I just want to thank y'all this morning for for such a rich program. I really am enjoying it. Thank you.
Dona.
Yes, thank you to all of you for all that you've contributed. I also wanted to, I am grateful for the people who got us to Joshua Tree last weekend, Hurley, Jim, Craig, and all the people who were there helping each and every one of us be there, because that was amazing to be together for the first time in 2 years, to be able to hug and to be around the fire, as I said, morning and night. So thank you. That was a great blessing and joy to me.
Okay. Thank you. Gail Price.
I have nothing profound to say, but I kind of went into a reverie during this time. Started with Donia, and I have not remembered May baskets in decades. And I remember making them and putting flowers in them, and it was just a lovely, lovely ritual. And then when I was in college, we had a May Day celebration every 4 years, where we'd have a huge maypole and people would dress up in old English outfits, and it's just a joyous, joyous occasion. Then when I was in England, I saw many, many green men images in the small parish churches around the countryside. I was just taken by that concept of how transforming one tradition into another, and then Maureen building on that through her presentation of, from the different cultural expressions. And then in baby college, my current activity, we do a maypole and a maypole dance. So these images and experiences have been part of my life. I've never tied them together, but all of this has been very rich for me and brought back wonderful, wonderful memories. Thank you.
Oh, I sing the first line. Kim's not here. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Anita. Happy birthday, dear Cleo. Happy birthday, dear Carol. Happy birthday, Jeremiah. Happy birthday to you.
All right, for a closing song, let's just sing Where We Sit is Holy. Holy is this ground. Where we sit is holy, holy is this ground. Forest, mountain, river, listen to the sound. Great Spirit moving all around me. Where we sit is holy, holy is this ground. Forest, mountain, river, listen to the sound. Great Spirit moving all around me. Where we sit is holy, holy is this ground. Forest, mountain, river, listen to the sound. Great Spirit moving all around me. Where we sit is holy, holy is this ground. Forest, mountain, river, listen to the sound. Great Spirit moving all around me. Where we sit is holy, holy is this ground. Forest, mountain, river, listen to the sound. Great Spirit moving all around me. Great Spirit moving all around me. Last time. Great Spirit moving all around me.
We will now release the directions. And you may blow out your candle. Don't want to forget to either blow out the fire in your cauldron or the candle for now. We release the power of the north. Thank you for being with us and dancing in our circle. We release the power of the west of water. Thank you for being in our circle and dancing with us. We release the power of the south. Thank you for the fire and being with us and protecting us. We release the power of the east, air, and breath. Thank you for being with us and dancing with us. Our circle is open, but never broken. Merry meet and merry part and merry meet again. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Blessed be. And now everybody take your mute off. And we'll stay together as we hold our hands around the world and between the world and people who are missing. Include them all in our community, and we say together, carry on. 1, 2, 3. Carry on.
Carry on.